Oof. That's not fair. Hey everyone, welcome back to Balance Basketball Academy, and today we're looking at what is apparently a not top 10 point guard of all time according to Kendrick Perkins and his wild take that Chris Paul is not a top 10 point guard. Well, I'm going to say first off, I completely disagree with that, but I also think it's a wonderful opportunity to dig into Chris Paul and his ball handling ability with an ankle breaker breakdown. And for those of you who are new, an ankle breaker breakdown is basically just us going through some of Chris Paul's best ankle breakers and figuring out from a film study kind of perspective how he did that ball handling wise, body position wise, speed, misdirection, all these different factors that come into people being great ball handlers. Now you can put that into your game. Alrighty, I know about 80% of you guys are not subscribed who are watching this video. I'd ask, just off the top, subscribe, or at least watch the video, and then make your choice after that. And without further ado, let's get into the video. We're going to notice this in a lot of his moves, particularly just because Chris Paul, for those of you who are unfamiliar, is a player that is small, undersized. He's about a 6-foot guard, and he has always been undersized pretty much ever since he got onto a competitive high school circuit. And so a lot of his ability has come down to his speed, his IQ, and his ability to make good dribble moves. And you're going to notice Chris Paul is not the type of guy who will make one move on you and just drive right by you. He is always going to hit you with a couple different moves, and eventually he'll get you primed enough that you'll bite, and then he'll actually make his move to the basket. His first move is very rarely the move he uses to get by NBA defenders. This is him in his Clipper days, which sounds kind of weird because now his Clipper days have returned. He makes that nice crossover. That player is stumbling backwards and trying to change direction over to his right side at the same time. Paul knows that he has this guy on the back foot. Like, that first move was a really solid move, but it wasn't enough to get him by. And he makes a second move, and that's all it takes to get him there. So basically, think of it this way. You make a really good move to start. That player now is reacting to you and trying to beat you to the spot. And by doing that, they're going to overcompensate typically, and that second move is the thing that gets him by. What he does after this point is Paul steps in front of his defender and kind of swoops in front of him, so all the player can do is foul him, so it ends up being an and-one scenario. That is a sneaky little point guard tactic. We'll just watch it all the way through, where once you pass somebody, if you can get in front of them, you basically completely cut them off from being able to stop you. So this is a wonderful opportunity for guards to recognize when they have a screen and roll and there's a switch. A lot of times the big man is going to be not necessarily unable, but potentially unable, but just unaccustomed to guarding a guard who can change lateral directions so quickly. A lot of post work is about, as far as defense goes, is about being able to keep somebody from making forward progress, and typically it is not trying to beat somebody to the spot and be faster than them or be as fast as them. So it's a different game, and it puts post players at a disadvantage when they're against quick guards like Chris Paul. So Chris Paul gets the switch right here, really high ball screen right at the top of the like half court marker, right at the logo. So basically what he does is he throws the ball out in front. He does a little sham god, which I'll show you the move. It's named after a player who did this move a lot of times. It's a street ball move. It's really cool looking. I've always wanted to try and pull it off in my life. I have never pulled it off once. All that to say, it's basically you're throwing the ball out in front to make it look like you're trying to accelerate in that direction, but also to kind of bait the defender to potentially reach for the ball because they think it's exposed. So he throws the ball out in front. After he does that, he takes his hand and pushes that ball back to the other side of his body. You can see that the post player has a lead foot. Chris Paul is going to attack that lead left foot right here. Boom. Yeah, not ideal. And the thing is that that player reaches with the lead foot. Chris Paul had two options there. He could have attacked the lead foot and gotten around that way. He decides to keep going in the direction that he was already going, mostly because... I skipped back too far again. Mostly because he realizes that trying to go all the way around that post defender is going to take him more time to get to the basket, and he can beat this guy just off of speed. So he makes a crossover, the guy reaches, you reach, I teach, that's Chris Paul in a nutshell, drives by, and he hits that floater because not a single defender actually commits to him. Anderson Varejao decides, oh, I have to guard either Blake Griffin right here on the dunker spot, or I have to guard Paul. This is like the Lob City Clipper days, so Chris Paul has complete advantage here. If Varejao stepped up, that's a lob and a dunk for Griffin. If Varejao does what he did here, where he backs off, that's a floater and a bucket for Chris Paul. It is a unwinnable game for the defense. Chris Paul is hitting this player downhill with this move, and so when you're attacking downhill and the defender's backpedaling, it's automatically disadvantaged defender because it is really difficult to move backwards as fast as you can move forwards. So, and on top of that, you're reacting to what the player who's moving forwards is doing, which is also very difficult to do because your brain has to take a second to react and then properly do what's next. You are always going to be literally on the back foot. So with Chris Paul, he hits him with this inside out and crossover behind. This is a bit of a fancy move, right? The inside out crossover in general, I think, is a great move. I think that move could have been accomplished potentially with a crossover in front of the body. The reason why he went behind is because if the defender reaches trying to get the inside out and you cross over in front, that ball's gone, right? That ball gets picked or it gets tipped and you don't get an opportunity to score. Even if you keep the possession, it's just not as effective. So, we'll go backwards a little bit. This inside out behind is a great move to go in the other direction. Look at how the defender jumps right here. Look at how he jumps all the way on that inside out, because that inside out sometimes is the only move people use. They'll use the inside out, but in this case, he didn't bite on the inside out as a fake crossover. The inside out's a fake crossover, but if the defender reads it as you're just trying to hit me with an inside out to freeze me, I'm going to bite on it, and I know you're staying in the same direction. The counter is to go behind, and that's exactly what happens. This is a great overhead view, and then he makes that wonderful scoop layup. When you're using the inside out, the default is to inside out and then keep going in the same direction, but the counter is the move that Chris Paul just put together right there. Right, so Paul gets Tony Parker on this one. That's a throwback Tony Parker. Make a comment if you remember Tony Parker. I do, quite well. He was an excellent basketball player, and I hated that he took a championship away from the Heat. But you know what? They deserved it. They won, fair and square. So Chris Paul right here has an advantage. The defender is behind him. Chris Paul is lower. His shoulders are lower than Parker's. They are roughly the same height. I believe Parker was about 6'1". In his days in the league. He has an advantage where he's further in front than Parker is, and what's going to happen is Chris Paul can recognize there's all these defenders waiting for him on the right side of the floor. The Spurs are an excellent defense. It's very difficult to play true one-on-one basketball with the Spurs because their help defense was so strong, especially during that era. So what Chris Paul opts to do, considering that Parker is now trying to compensate and get back as fast as he can, is he crosses over. Just a nice slow crossover right in front, and now he has all this open space. He doesn't have to deal with all those players down low. Hits that mid-range. Oof. That's not fair. So what we're dealing with right now is we have a bit of a switch scenario. I have no idea why this player, I forget his name, this big man on the Bucks, is guarding either Paul or Harden, but we're dealing with a pick and pop situation in which Harden has come up and is going to try and pick and pop. He has, I believe that's Drew Holiday on him on the top side, but Chris Paul who has this big man defender on him, is like, no, I don't need a screen or a switch. I don't want Holiday on me. I want this dude on me. So what he does is instead he fakes like he's headed towards the screen. The post defender starts to cheat and get into the screen faster, unaware that Drew Holiday is right there and that the post player should do his job and angle Paul into the screen instead of trying to cheat the screen and leaving that right side wide open. But he does that. He makes a mistake. Chris Paul recognizes that he's trying to cheat the screen and also doesn't want to run into a trap, and he goes right by. Now this player is trying to catch up. Chris Paul, realizing he has the speed advantage and that this guy is not in complete control of what's happening and will have to react to what he does next, crosses over that pullback cross from in between. And now Holiday has a tough choice to make. Do I guard Chris Paul or do I guard James Harden at the three-point line? It's kind of an impossible choice. Holiday makes the choice to back off, and Paul is left all by his lonesome. Okay, that was just a circus shot of a play. Would I consider this an ankle breaker? No. Will I still break it down? Absolutely I will. You know how to use your body, you know how to use your reads effectively in a pick and roll situation, you are going to be so valuable to your team. So it looks like Chris Paul is in the screen and roll situation, all right? The screen's coming in from the right. He decides to cross over and go to the right. Tony Parker, once again, goes under the screen. He is not worried about Chris Paul shooting that three-point step back right now. Remember, this is like the New Orleans Hornets days. This is a long time ago. So the three-point game is not quite where it was. A more standard way to play basketball off of a pick and roll is to drive or hit a pull-up jumper. Or hit the guy on the roll, obviously. The hitting a three behind a pick and roll was less common, and so just be aware of the context of this situation. So Parker goes under the screen, which is a valid read for players who you're not worried about shooting right off the screen. Paul has a gap. So there is his rolling player right here, and then Tony Parker, who is trying to hop over to the center line as fast as he possibly can. Paul realizes that off of this roll, he has a gap. This guy is going to get blocked off a little bit on the Spurs. This guy's going to get blocked off by his roll man. And Paul is going to be able to split the defense and get through the middle. Splitting the defense is a difficult move to do, but it is very effective because if you can find a gap in which the defense is not completely walled up man-to-man, and you can exploit it, a lot of times you can end up with a temporary 2-on-1 situation or 3-on-2 or 3-on-1 even, because there's going to be players that are behind you that are not necessarily in the play for a handful of seconds at most. Then Chris Paul just makes like kind of the craziest shot that I've seen in a while. Pretty neat right there. So he comes from under the screen, he's going in, the roll man's coming through. He realizes that Parker's overcompensated to meeting him in the middle, and he makes a quick crossover move in front of him. That crossover is nice and low under Parker's outstretched hands. There's nothing wrong with a crossover in front of your body as long as you make it low so it doesn't get stolen in the cases where somebody has a hand outstretched. He crosses over, splits the defense. All this Spurs player over in the corner here can do is reach. Parker is fouling him all the way through, and he makes a circus shot on his way to the basket. Which, credit to him. Funny thing is that the more times you practice basketball and the more times you train, the more likely it is for you to make something like that. The more you train, the more you get lucky. That's what I like to say. And that's basically all I have for you guys today. I just wanted to go into some of Chris Paul's coolest moves, some of his stuff, the way that he manipulates the ball. He uses a lot of double moves. He uses a lot of moves to set people up. He reads very cleanly what the play is happening that's in front of him. He doesn't overcomplicate things. I think that's really, really a good thing for players to learn, is that he's not hitting you with 15 moves. He hits you with 1, 2, maybe 3. And if he can't get what he's looking for, then he can't. But most of the time, the best way to make a move in a basketball game is to read what the defense is doing and make one really effective move to counter against that, instead of making a bunch of moves and basically spamming, you know, square or whatever, until you finally get what you're looking for. He reads everything first, then he acts. And I think that that's a very cool way to go about playing basketball. I think that he has some incredible talent and some incredible skills. And yeah, guys, he's one of the best point guards of all time. Let's not, you know, bring any more disrespect to his name. And I hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope that you enjoy this breakdown. Let me know if there's any other players that you want to break down or that you want me to break down. If you guys want to do it, totally up to you. But if there's other people you want me to take a look at, let me know and I'll take a look at those videos. I'm happy to be back and around this fall. School's in session, so you know things are getting busy again for me. But you know we're gonna keep doing this. Basketball season's coming up soon, and I'm very excited. So thank you guys, and with that, have a great rest of your day. I'll see you. Goodbye.